Who is Corey Dickerson?
I'm a father, mixed military. Uh, I'm an honor student as well. I've always been a family man. I grew up in Parkfield Terrace, 12 years, and moved out here in 1993. I can tell you that even though that Parkfield was an unincorporated area, Cahokia has always been a safe haven uh, for me and my family. We would used to shop out here. You know, we still had Kmart at that time and movie theater. You know, we had pools, we had skating rinks, all of these things that help us escape the trench that we know for Parkfield to be a place where you could call, you have an issue, you call the police. It's going to take them 45 minutes in order to show up. You know, this is a reality. And we had to learn how to deal with things within our community. Parents had to work with parents. Parents had to talk to parents in order to resolve issues. And we come from that old school background. Um, Also, I do have a background in music as well. I used to tour with Radio Uncut International. They had also high school connects and school connects where college students were able to intern and get college credits and get on-the-job experience working with Atlantic Records. It was a nice deal at the time. Uh, yeah, but I mean, I've always been for the people. You know, I've always done right. My mama raised me right. You know, to care and have empathy toward those who have been oppressed for far too long.
Awesome. Can you break down your military education, political, and martial arts background?
As far as my martial arts background, I used to go to Finney's, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Moses instructed me as far as on boxing. That was a nice time. I took that education further. I had people along my life that also had training that taught me. I have people that were ex cops within the military that also helped me from Chicago. There was a big shootout back in the day in Chicago. It was one of the guys that was in that shootout for like so long. He helped me out a lot. As far as my education goes, I've always been a student. I've always been a firm believer in reading, informing yourself about things. I'm one of those people, if you run into a problem, I don't look for somebody else to solve it, because for so many times we look for that answer to be handled in that manner, and we don't get the answers that we need. That no one's going to ever care about that fight as strong as you would. So I've always been a person about educating myself. I went back to school after I got inside of the pre-K program. I was going to go ahead and finish up and become a lawyer is what I wanted to do. But I looked into a lot of these things, and what I see is it's a continued Band-Aid system, I would call it. Just like the public assistance that we receive, like most of the positions that we would think that would make a strong impact is going to put a Band-Aid on an individualized immediate problem. I recently took Brain Manager's IQ test back in, I think, early November. I scored a 168. As far as my IQ level in this particular area, it was like, I think it's like one in a million. There will be probably about like 3 people in this area or this state that will be able to achieve that type of IQ. I don't say that to gloat. I use that as a measurement of how well I am articulated with systems. I've always been able to get my hands on a system and find a way to improve it, or I find the gaps where we can insert a better implementation of things in order to make things function in a better manner. My work experience, I have various jobs from collections, from retention to business sales. I was a guy that went to all the businesses without knowing their name, and I get the holier tax ID, and I'm going to open you up to like 50 lines, no deposit, iPhones for everybody. You know, I was out here doing that before the Mike Brown issue happened. I actually was going to be the next area that I expanded to. When that happened, I had to find other means. I had to find another way in order to make money, and I got in a product recall. I worked with the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission. I excelled there pretty fast. My first day, my son was born when I got there. I had a flat tire, had to change my tire. I get there for 15 minutes. He's coming. I had to leave. And, they adopted me there. That was at real-time results. But I was one of those guys you call the water heater. My daughter lost her life in a fire the night prior. I was one of those people that would take that call in, and I would talk with the client. We'll discuss with the client what is the best way to handle the situation, because, when there's a loss of life, we have to take that with the utmost consideration and make sure those people got provided what they needed. But other than that, I've been self-educated. Being an honor student with the National Honor Society of Leadership and Success, there's mentors there such as Obama. There's from everywhere to Obama to Kevin Hart to Deion Sanders. I actually had to sit in listening while Deion Sanders was talking with us about relationships, and he has some good advice about relationship for young people, as you could imagine. I would say he has a strong saying of, you young people that you just rush, and it's so important. Just slow down, slow down, take the time, don't argue right then and there. Slow down and work your issues out. I think that was great. But overall, I've always, like I said, I've been a reader, and I look into policies. I look into laws and how they affect us. My education, becoming a lawyer, it's something that I want to do. However, there's a immediate call right now that I have to step in, because we can't go in the same direction of failure. We can't go in the same direction of loss. We have to be able to redirect ourselves and educate ourselves about our own situation. So I'm going to always be in school. I'm going to always be learning. Measurement isn't just by the piece of paper that you have in your hand, obviously. There's people that never went to school that became millionaires. Why is that? You always we got to think outside the box. The socioeconomic structure causes us to have an expectation on what education is, but we don't look into the societal things that oppress us and make that situation much different moving forward. But I digress.
Awesome. So, ex-Army Ranger Nicholas Irvin, nicknamed the Reaper. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. Mm-hmm. Okay, so he stated that China would crush the USA in a head-to-head war through technology. The new soldiers, for us in the military now, mentally nor physically fit for war. Our lack of unity, so on. What are your thoughts on that statement? I wouldn't publicly would have said it, but
I understand, and I'm one of those guys. Even if my point of view is disagreed, I'm going to give it to you straight. That's why I was afraid to get in politics, because I'm going to tell you it like it is, and I go based off of the facts, and then we're going to process that in whatever way we want to. But it doesn't change the end result at the end of the day. Underinvestment in our youth is the first thing I want to start with, and I say that because you look into the things that he has looked into, like with mental health and technology. Definitely the underinvestment in our youth and being able to direct them in a fashion that promotes unity. We're too fragmented amongst each other because of the color of our skin. Even in the area that we live in now is one that was deeply affected by industrialization and the Red Summer. And a lot of people fall back on the Red Summer. They don't really understand how long that went on. It went on for quite some time. We've had individuals that was hanging right there in that circle in Belleville, just because they were being able to support themselves financially and build the business. All they had to do back then was just yell rape. And then we got a person hanging in the city on display. We look at the riots. We look at what happened on both sides of the river. And this area became a plantation of sort, because industrialization put the warehouses over here. And then you look at St. Louis. St. Louis is completely, you get your corporate jobs, you get business and more administrative functions over there across the river, which forces us in an area where we don't have all of those opportunities to travel about 20 minutes out and go and compete. And they'll give us the job first, because If you have a degree, if you don't have a degree, they could pay you less. So a lot of the people are getting those jobs at less, getting paid for less, maybe a third, maybe 2/3 less. I think that ultimately it stems from division, and his ideas would say that we'll get crushed in a war with China because of the structure of China. We need to start worrying about our structure as well. We know that the societal issues are coming. The baby boomers, unfortunately, their life cycle, they're near the end of their life cycle. And when that happens, there's going to be a shift. There's going to be a fallout of middle class that's going to start coming from everywhere. So I want you to pay attention to what's going on out here in your own city in Cahokia, in East St. Louis. I want you to pay attention to what's going to go on in Washington Park. Why did we start the consolidation process? Why is there a merger? Because we needed to get federal funds. Those federal funds may offer us the opportunity to be able to put in we can write our own grants, but look at the abuse of power and how those grants are being implemented and how we are separated through polarization as well. Polarization causes more division than most. That the reason our consolidated elections are much lower than what we would have in a primary election is just because the Republicans have no representation. And I understand that the Democrats want to be able to get power and maintain that power. And this is a democratic state, But however, there are policies that we can work together on. That's why I am an independent, because I understand that we have to worry about the people. Look at our pre-K program. We're talking about improving our youth, correct? We look at our pre-K program in Cahokia. Only 150 students are allowed, and they have to be high risk. I remember that we had Head Starts and early daycares everywhere back when I was young. I think that's why my education, my understanding, and my IQ the way it is today, because my mother read to me. I had teachers in preschool and elementary school that were very, very good at teaching me things. I moved a lot. I went to different schools a lot, every year almost. But that teaches me how to think on my feet. But at least the opportunity was there, not here. And we have more division because of it. And the Republican Party had school of choice as well. But that gets shut down. Our state representative did sign off on the bill. But there's corruption within that system, which that person that decides where the laws that get put on that bill to get voted on, well, he's been removed. And there's somebody else coming on. So there is going to be opportunity to make this thing look a lot differently. But that's just for the state of Illinois. We're talking about the country as a whole. We look at this as our reality. But when you leave 20 minutes outside of this area in any direction, you're going to realize that you are the minority that you are. It isn't going to be so heavily populated with African Americans and other minorities. You're going to go out into these areas outside of the city, and you're going to see a nice, flourishing community. If you don't believe me, just go towards St. Louis, go South County, and just drive down a little bit. You drive down about 20 minutes and start to see how your environment starts to change. I totally believe that if we don't get a hold of it, we're going to be crushed, because we're behind technically, we're behind on unity, and it's still too much fragmentation going on.
Awesome. Are you a constitutionalist?
I found that to be a very interesting question, but I have to say yes. Any tool, the Constitution is set there. Yes. Did it have us in mind? No. How difficult would it be in order to go and make those changes? We have the power to make referendums, correct? And that gives us the power to handle our stuff, our issues on a local level. That helps us get the information that we need. I say, for instance, the Centerville Township. My ideal is, I thought that it was supposed to be dissolved when the city merged, correct? That's my assumption. So therefore, we have a former mayor running in that position uncontested, but it has a lot to do with the funds that are being dealt with administratively, and also with nonprofit organizations. So that's the gatekeeper. There's a gatekeeper. Just like when you call a business or when you call a bank, you got to speak to the gatekeeper. And we got nonprofit organizations around here that will offer us resources and offer us help as well. However, a lot of those opportunities will be denied, or they don't get offered in a situation of need. Recently, we lost a 15-year-old out here, and that situation is horrifying. Dealing with with the mother having issues of finding proper burial. Those resources are available. Now, those resources were connected to her, but it shouldn't have been somebody outside of that trying to help her get those things when we have a mayor inside of the city, or we have leadership inside the city. Those are things that we need our own people in our own city, our own leaders to get a hold of. So when you look at that, if you were to dissolving that board, we would have to put in a referendum, and it has to be voted on. Only in a crisis, or if there's found with mismanagement or something that was inconsistent, we'll be able to make that change. That's an implementation of that Constitution. What would that look like? Maybe 1.5 million. I'm just putting numbers out there. Just for those pay wages for the person that is the supervisor, for the trustees. Man, we're not even calculating all of the money that we lose off of the opportunity that could assist us. If you were to dissolve that, what it would look like? I mean, we don't have enough police officers. I believe that maybe that account for 12 new police officers. I'm just putting numbers out there, But definitely, yes, I believe that we have to use the tools that we have immediately to get an immediate solution. We can look at improving the system once we start flourishing and making improvements on how we flourish. But we got to come together and understand how to use those tools correctly.
Awesome. In your opinion, what is the state of Cahokia Heights, Illinois?
It's broken. There's corruption. There's a lack of. There's a despair. And that despair is making it acceptable for the lack of. I think that ultimately what Cahokia used to be versus what it is now is like black and white. We have vacancies in every commercial area out here. The land is valuable. We know this. I question, are these things intentional? Is it something that is preparing for another merge? Especially where the school is being placed. That's questionable. Well, that's a flooded area. I mean, it's an area that floods. That's questionable. And expanding and knocking down the old college for commercial business opportunities, placing it there and doing that there, putting stuff in the school zone, those all have effects, and we have to understand what that looks like. I think that your city is being milked as it opposed to being blocked at the same time for improvement. If the thing is, we have all of these companies and these engineers and construction workers rebuilding our city. If $193 million have went out to get this done, I want to know, why do I still have hay and dirt poking up from my own sewer? Why is there daycares that have sewer issues where an outside problem caused a room to flood and the ceiling to cave in on top of the daycare, costing people money, unbelievable amounts of money? And then if you want to go and get information about the sewer problem to right in front of your home, on your land, you got to get a FOIA for it. That is completely redundant and unnecessary. It's a lack of transparency. Everything is set up in a defensive position. I think that we have to take some type of accountability. We don't have that accountability. Even when we merge and start paying the police officers less, I think that crime fighting has to be an attractive thing. I want to give them a competitive wage because they're taking a competitive chance when they step out here every day dealing with our problems. I want to get the police officers as much funding as I humanly possibly can, but that isn't the situation right now. And I want that to change immediately. But yes, I think that we're in a horrible state right now.
Awesome. So hypothetically, if you were elected mayor in the city of Cahokia Heights, what would be your first 3 actions?
My first three actions, and it may be troublesome, is I want to freeze. I'm not saying like to interfere, to stop any potential growth. But coming in, I got to know all of the moving parts. Uh, Being in a position that I'm in, being a mayor, yes, I'm supposed to help govern. I'm supposed to help our economy, our entire framework of everything. But I find myself learning the jobs that need to be done because there's not enough people, or not enough people that are even qualified or knowledgeable enough in order to do the things that need to be done. We have vacancies, and even the jobs that we have now that are available with the people in those positions, there's a level of nepotism. There's a level of nepotism. There's a buddy buddy system. There are political aspirations. There are people uh, that were planted, within our own city with their own narratives to help out outside interest. I think that I would have to definitely put a freeze on everything, and I want a complete, full audit to run a financial audit. I also want to make that public record. I want that to be added in digitally for our records, so our other freedom fighters can step inside of the ring with me and hop inside of that library and get all of that information. If I get my hands on that information, if I get my hands on all of the FOIA requests that I'm asking for, our financial records, I promise you I can have it done in days. I promise you that I can find our inconsistencies in days. The thing is going to be identifying who caused the inconsistencies. We're going to have to match bodies with those because we know that there are inconsistencies on every level. But that'll definitely be something. And when I get in, I want to make safety one of our top priorities. I don't want it to be a situation where it's over policing or we get a whole bunch of police out here and we roll the street. No, that agitates the situation, and it also causes a lot of distrust. We have to be able to sit down with each other. We need committees. We need people that'll be able to sit down and look, this is what's going on in our neighborhood. Our people don't have representation. They're being silenced to represent themselves. I think that we have to sit down and we have to think about these things first. Come together as a family, because that's the principle that I grew up on. Come together as a family. We sit down and we talk about these things that happen. We talk about what's going on in your neighborhood. We talk about the squatters on your block. We talk about the kids that circle inside of your cars as just waiting for the right moment to get inside of there to be able to identify these people and get the corrective action. I don't want to slam the book on them because our people out here are a very important resource. And if we don't treat them like a resource, they're not ever going to become a resource. If we just lock them up, throw away the key, we're going to have issues. So I want to be able to find ways to add positive reinforcement. We look into criminology on every level. If you look into every aspect of criminology, every disparity that causes crime, from injustices, from racism, from colorblind racism, all of these things lock us down and keep us in chains within our own mind. We have to be aware of that structure, and being aware of that structure means that we got to fight for what's right. I want to be able to get as many youth programs invested within the police. I want the police direct involvement. I don't only want the police to get paid for doing their job. I want police to get paid for putting in their service outside of their job with their children, because outside with these children out here, because they sacrifice a lot of their time away from their families as well. And like I said, it has to be an attractive situation for them. So they got my full support. We can't get anything done economically until we take care of the financial situation out here. What is it going to look like when the school is done? That tax levy is over with in 2027, but we also got to invest $30 million into the infrastructure because of mismanagement of certain people. And that's going to have an effect. We don't have all of those businesses like O'Fallon. Why is our tax rate ranging between 18% to 20% from housing? Law is going to be the top priority. If we're looking at, if even talking about that, the assessors are assessing the homes for much more value than what they'll sell for. So if you're talking about being a constitutionalist, that's a constitutionalist problem. That's unconstitutional. There are already movements that are being had towards the Supreme Court to addressing this. What this situation would look like is if all of the homeowners got together and just sued the assessor. What are they going to do? They don't have the manpower to stop us. But what if one property manager decided to hop in on board as well? They're allocating the cost. It's not affecting them. because they allocated the cost to our rent. That's why we have $1,500 rent on very small properties. If we had them to actually lock in, and we come together as a city's supposed to, and we talk about our strat, it would cause so much confusion. They'll have to go ahead and let us go. I think that property tax is unconstitutional, at best, unconstitutional. I don't know what else to say. It's not fair.
Awesome. What are your thoughts on the educational system in Cahokia Heights?
My thoughts on the educational system is a land of nepotism, a land of favoritism. We have city officials that are also added on to that as well with motivation, with motivation to stick together. This is my brother. This is my cousin. This is my wife's family. This is the family I'm married into. I used to be a former official for this city. I used to do this for that city. I used to be a felon. I used to have voter fraud. And we are in these positions. You know what, sir? I don't know the policies, but I'm just here to take your report. You can't take my report if you don't know the policies. Right now, I think that the situation also is at the worst that it has ever been in. It is gross. It is disgusting. I want to touch on something, if I may. So right now, there is a teacher in a geometry class in the sophomore level of Cahokia High School. This teacher did not grade any assignments from the beginning of the school year to the midterm. And when we had a new substitute teacher come in, she brought in 2 boxes in the classroom. These were all the ungraded assignments. My son, other students were told that no one can change the grade unless a teacher enters them in. So that means that those students all receives Fs. So I'm like, well, what's going on? They say they're going to fix it. 7 months in completion. We are 2 months in. I go to check to see if it was done because my son is an honor student and he has an F. He's an athlete. He's a star athlete. I had to make sure these things affect his GPA and his athletic eligibility, if the eligibility was ever ran in the first place. I went down there, went and talked to the 10th grade principal, the main principal. They didn't know anything about what was going on, but they were able to go inside the room and verify that the paperwork was there as I asked for it. I told them I wanted the things that are a necessity. I told them that I wanted the teacher's qualifications to run that class and her credentials at that time. I asked them for all of the work, uncompleted work for my son that you guys have, that he should have had graded. They're supposed to be able to provide that to me. And I wanted to know his academic performance right then and there. I wanted his academic report right then and there. And these are things that should be done, like in other schools, will be done in every 2 weeks that are updated. So even if it wasn't updated for 2 weeks, that would have still been acceptable. I needed that. And I was not provided that. Me and his mother was not provided that information at all. Those are all red flags of cover-up potential. I understand that some of the things that I'm saying in there, the laws that I know, even the people that work there, they're informed as needed, and they have to ask for higher up. So our superintendent, they have to ask him, what's the best way to proceed. But I know how you're supposed to proceed. That's information that's supposed to be provided immediately. And there's certain paperwork that I tried to drop off, I file, and if you ignore it, that's considered a federal violation. And they treated me like a disease. They wanted me to talk to the people talk to the person at the school board. Same person at the school board. It's a mess. Sexual harassment claims. Voter fraud, 45 counts. I don't know the policies. I've got to depend on this person to fix an issue like this. Let's do the math. Let's just say roughly, this teacher has 6 classes a day, 20 to 25 plus students. Maybe 125, 150 students probably, that are affected by this particular situation. And there's no answer. Defensive stand. I'm in trouble. I gotta be in defensive stand with Corey Dickerson because he's trying to nail us to the wall. You know, this is the situation, active situation that's going on. My concern is I do have parents that are willing to step up and take on that fight. But a lot of us, they just look at it, it's geometry. It's enough. They got enough. Okay. No, your child didn't get enough. Your child grade never was never counted. How do we have a system where we're supposed to address these issues and try to remedy it with participation points? So you was there, let me give you a point. No. You think they're going to care about that when they go to college? How much of that knowledge did they retain during that stretch of time? They implemented a program called Regency, I believe that's what it's called, where they do it digitally now. That's helpful. If they would have had that at the beginning of the year, we can guarantee that they retained that information. But if the paperwork was not graded, that's educational neglect, educational malpractice, all tied up in one. I did the research. There's 10 policies that were violated during that time. I'm not going to bore you with each one of them because I have it online for you you're going to have to be active reader. You got to care. You know, I can show you the road. You just got to walk down it. But we have nepotism. We have retaliation. Teachers have been retaliated against within a school district, even including myself. Retaliation is gross. It's horrible. Just because you know somebody and you put heat on somebody that's not doing their job does not give you the opportunity to take action against the people that are actually there and on the front lines with children. I've sat down with children that cried just because they wanted their daddies and their daddies locked up. Who's healing those wounds? I'm there standing up there healing those wounds. You know, it's a very hurtful situation to see our youth in such a state of disarray. You know, it needs to be improved. I'll leave on this because I know I'm going a while with this one. I'll leave you with this. The Illinois State Board says it has to be handled on a local level. That means that the overhead, the people that's out here receiving rewards for, I don't know what job you did to get a reward, but hey, good for you. They don't have to answer to it, but somebody down that pipeline will, and that could be the principal, that could be the other principal, that could be, you know, the teacher. And I don't want to just throw the teacher under the bus because the teacher has their part to play. I think that even dealing with the principals, I don't want to even throw them under the bus because I get it, it's a lot to manage. But when we're asking for that information, it needs to be provided. And they might not be held accountable locally, but when we start looking into the way that they get the money to fund those schools, like the grants that they receive, you have to be in compliance to receive those. So you think you're going to get away, if they think they were going to get away with a slight slap on the wrist, we look inside of those grants and how do they have to be in compliance for those grants? If they take funding away, well, the state is going to have to step in. And unfortunately, I don't think that is the best decision. But however, what other choice do we got? And if they step in, that'll help us kind of clear some of the mess and clutter that we have inside of the administration positions at the school, the board as well. You know, I feel that then if it was up to me, I would want the entire board gone. If it was up to me, I would want them all replaced, you know, or if not replaced, I would like them to be sat down and be given a proper education on how to deal with the people out here and a real action plan. And I would want to see it. I want open meetings in a board building again. I don't want you guys closed session because he's going to say something. We're going to open now for closed sessions when they see me coming in. 54 staff members of Cahokia School District left the school district in between the months of May and July. 54. And after we got to that confirmed number, because they were telling us in detail of who it was, they just put the sections of what was going on in the board meeting. They put resignations. You know, that was it. We're no longer telling how many people. While we have a lack of a speech pathologist that was just going on, I was in front of that case too. It makes me question if they have direct ties with the news or if they're paying to silence them too. You know, I sat down with the people that were representing for the speech pathologist situation that were not available. It was like a month went by about this. I'm sitting there next to supporting this woman. I sat down in front of the reporters. I told them everything that's happening now. This was, I believe, Channel 4. I think it was Channel 4 News. It was a Channel 4 News reporter. I sat down And I talked to her and I told her exactly everything that's happening now. You do not know they didn't air anything that I said. I was confused. At first I thought maybe they need a fact check because when I'm telling them it's public information, you can look it up. No. They made sure that he did have a say inside of that inside of that story. Now we got a class action lawsuit on the way. There are things that are going to happen and transpire because of retaliation, and they had an opportunity to get in front of it. So I feel that our school district was still underrepresented. It takes platforms just like yours in order to put the real issues front and center and be able to control the narrative of what we have facing with our children.
Awesome. Okay, Saturday, March 8th, 2025, a peace walk for our community was organized in Cahokia Heights, Illinois, first of its kind. What inspired this peace walk, and what did you hope to accomplish?
Unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to fulfill our vision on the peace walk. There was another incident that happened on State Street where there was 2 more individuals that was murdered tied into that family. That same day, I was informed that the mother didn't have the resources that she needed in order to bury her son. I stepped in, and I say this now because we're still working on helping her get the resources that we need. So it needs to be known. I did all this. I did not get in front of it. I didn't want to make it seem like I'm doing this to gain any support. I naturally care for that woman. That woman has teared me up. You know, I see her hurting in a way that's unimaginable. I would say that he lost his father 2 months ago. There's a lot of things that people don't know. He lost his father 2 months before he was murdered. And then we have 2 more family members of his that get murdered in East St. Louis as well. And she was struggling to get the funds to bury him. And I'm there to help. And it was not in a place where we could mobilize and walk. They're not ready. She's still in grief. I need as much support given to her as humanly possible. She needs help, so we're gonna move forward with the peace walk. We're probably going to do a healing visual first. We're going to do a healing visual first to gain some support, and then we're going to do the peace walk. I want to be able not only to just include her, I want to also include some people that I know. As a woman that I know that lost 2 of her children to murder. It's a very hurtful situation. But what motivated it is we got to call for action. We have to call for action. We have to stop losing our youth to the streets. We don't know what kind of brilliant mind that we lost. We don't know how many brilliant minds that we lost just because of fixation on what we hold to be acceptable in society. The children don't have anything else. They don't have all of the opportunities that I had when I was young. And I may have been limited on my opportunities, but we still had places where we can gather in peace, where we could play basketball all day in peace, where we had things to do. They don't have anything to do. And their social network, dealing with social media, that they hold that dear. They live by that. I don't want them to die by it.
Man, awesome. This question right here is drawn up. I'm going to try to shorten it. But a former Village of Allerton, East St. Louis police chief pled guilty to theft of evidence and making false statements to federal investigators a while back. And he was eventually, I'm not sure if it's true, we awarded a job. How did that make you feel?
He was awarded a job? Yeah. I'm very knowledgeable about this situation. Not only was he involved with the police, he was declarated for his service. My thought is, what was the motivation for him to be baited in such a situation? I mean, that's a very fine line for entrapment. If it's the same situation that I'm thinking about, I think that, like I said, when it comes down to crime, yes, I think that we need to hold people accountable for what they do. We need to hold them accountable for what they do, and we got to look for a method for corrective action. If I was to say every felon, I would not offer you an opportunity to be able to make it right, then I would be doing a disservice to the community, because the knowledge that man has is still very valuable. The job that he did is very valuable. But what are we supposed to do when we ain't never had anything? You know, temptation is very hard, you know, but if you don't have integrity, then that just means he doesn't need to be in that. He doesn't need to be in law enforcement. Got it. But he did learn something while he was there. And we got to be able to find a situation that'll give him the opportunity to rehabilitate himself. And we also have to give them the opportunity, if he wants to make it right and do the work every day.
Awesome. So that same year, 2012, December, the assistant chief of police for Centerville, Illinois, was indicted by a federal grand jury for allegedly selling a gun to an individual who was supposedly a convicted sex offender. I'm not sure if that was true, but he also has been rewarded with a job in Cahokia Heights. Is that true? I'm not sure if it's true, but how do you feel about that?
I'm very confused, like to the point of where we get an individual in a city that can hold a position for code enforcement, that can hold a position for county coroner, you know, alderman of Fairview Heights. I don't understand how there's when I say there's corruption, there's political motivation. There's political motivation. There are people that are pulling the strings outside of the city, you know, and we look at that individual. Yes, that individual's planted there, and it is. We have to look at the reasons of why. Removing that person or getting rid of that person doesn't solve the problem. You know, that's just like you get stung by one wasp and you kill the wasp and there's a beehive. I mean, there's a wasp hive. You know, you got to remove the hive in order to take care of that issue. I think that no one should be in a power where they're abusing. It's abuse of power. It's abuse of power. There are laws against that abuse of power. I don't think that is right. I don't think that is right. Though those positions were put there as stated before for political motivation. They're motivated politically, and there are so many moving parts to that. There's 1,000 answers, and there's one that just needs to be focused on. We have to address the cause of the corruption.
I saw a news story about a 14-year-old teenage boy waiting for his little brother to get home from Huffman Elementary School. And 3 criminal-minded boys approached the young teen and attacked him with a gun. Do you know of that situation?
I do. And are you talking about the incident that happened at Huffman?
Yeah. Supposedly, he was waiting at a bus stop and he got robbed and attacked. I saw it on the news.
Are you talking about my son?
That was your son?
Yes, that was my son.
Can you go and elaborate a little bit about that?
Yeah, I was doing that. I was leaving work that day. I had to stay late because there was a situation with Consumer Product Safety Commission. Someone had got hurt from a product. I had to make sure that everything was taken care of. So I come home late. I'm driving back. I see the lights at my house. My heart drops. It sinks to the floor. I found out that my son, that there was an attempt on my son's life to rob him and kidnap him. I had called the school district prior telling them that, hey, that bus stop isn't safe. Mom wasn't far. You know, she was cooking, but she wasn't far. But at the same token, he was there, standing there. And somebody tried to rob him. They took his earrings, they took his shoes, and they told him to walk with him and tried to get in the car around the corner right there in front of the high school. A neighbor actually stepped out and said, hey, what you doing? They pointed the gun at him, and they let him free. They let him free. I called the school district multiple times telling them, like, hey, that's not a good spot to drop the children off because that's a convenient mark right there, you know, and it's getting late. They start hanging out there. So, I mean, fighting that situation, once again, when I called the school board, they really didn't offer any help. You know, it was the aftermath that we had to deal with. All his life, I was telling him why he didn't understand why I didn't let him go outside and play and stay out late like the other kids. I kept my children close, maybe sometimes too close. But I tried to explain to him the dangers that that exist. I grew up in Parkfield. You know, I grew up in Parkfield. I lived in the Greystones for a while. I'm from here, you know, and I stick out like a sore thumb. I was a nerd, but I know how things happen when you are a child that you can obviously see that mom cares. You can obviously see that there's somebody there. There's going to be forms of jealousy, but at that time, I didn't know if it was that, or if it was because somebody had a court case the day before. Somebody had a court case because they tried to jump him, and I was going to put them in front of the court for mob action. I was going to be looking for the result, not for them to be charged. I was going to be looking for corrective actions to be implemented, to find a way to settle it, because I got to hold the parents accountable for their child's action if they won't, you know. But I think that it was something that stemmed from that, you know. But just moving forward, it was a very difficult time. I don't think that he ever really fully, you know, shook that situation. I haven't. I'm still watching out for my children now. It was a very upsetting and very hurtful situation.
Okay, then. I understand. Awesome. You posted a video about having sewer issues. Can you dive into that?
Yes. So my bill was due on the 6th of January. They came out and disconnected my water like 6 days prior, like days prior. I want to say right before the new year. And that was because there was a leak. There was a water leak. I had the video where they had the bucket sticking it down there where the meter was, trying to clear it. They said that they'll have somebody back. No one came. And then my house was without water for about like maybe 8 days. For 8 days during the time that it froze. That water was freezing out there. I had to leave and make sure that we had the water that we needed. And I feel that it was maybe a level of targeting. I probably was targeted, you know, but they didn't do anything until I wrote a letter to them informing them that if they didn't come out within 48 hours, that I was going to report them to the EPA. I was going to report them and let them know that this was going on, and I was going to file a complaint against them. They was out there in mere hours, and then they fixed it. And then they left my yard looking a mess for a long time, for a very long time, like since January 8th. They came out there, they left, everything was still there, just looking nasty, dirt everywhere. They didn't come and fix the dirt at all. So I went up to the water company. Me and my fiance went up there to get it taken care of. We told them we wanted to know when you guys were going to come. And I also requested a full report of what was the issue so I can understand that, because I'm going to need that for my records. And I wanted to know what was the spike in my bill. I reported to them back in, I want to say August, that my water pressure got extremely low. After that, there was a water main break that happened right down the street. Now, I think that something happened with that pressure in. I always knew that there was a little water there, but I didn't think nothing of it. So the entire time there was a leak, and it just agitated, and it got to the point where it was showing double usage. So they ended up correcting the bill. They did correct the bill. They were trying to shortchange me when I called, but when I came, they did the math. You know, because I asked for the report of the bill. I'm going to be able to average what my average usage was and be able to tell you what the bill would be. It wasn't nothing. They wanted to take $20 off at first. That wasn't going to work. But when I asked them for the information about the repair, a simple repair, you change the water heater, you change the water meter. They said, well, you're going to have to request a FOIA for that. When do we got to start requesting FOIAs for work that you did right there at the property that we live at? When do we start doing that? Like, they still haven't provided me the information. I could easily right now just go ahead and report it to the Attorney General, which I am, because I'm tired. Every situation, the targeting, everything that they have tried, if you look at what's going on, everything that's tried to work against me, from pictures being taken from my home, me being stalked, all of this, there's always an action that has backfired on me. Everything that's been done against me backfires. But the thing is now, I know it's paperwork that's going to follow up with everything. But no, they haven't fixed the issue because I still don't have the report. They may have fixed the physical issue. It may look like I have a barn in front of my house right now because they just got it done. They corrected the main issue, but I need that paperwork. So no, they have not completed that issue yet.
Awesome. Are you concerned with health issues developing from the water supply, Cahokia Heights?
Yes, the water supply doesn't treat for a particular substance. I forget what the name of it is, but this substance actually causes like stomach cancer. Like it causes cancers, intestinal cancer, gastric cancers, and it's not treated for in the water. But it doesn't take you use common sense piece to tell you if you run some water and you let it sit for a second and it's stuff floating on top that maybe you shouldn't drink it. You know, that's the situation. I'm very concerned. It's also something that I want to implement inside the city. We have all of this space. I think the company is called Miller Singapore out in St. Louis, where they do research. Like they do different type of research, pain, medicine research. I think everything out here we need research out here as well. I know that Washington University, I think that is actually looking into this situation now and studying our water. The information's there. And we have the information. We have to act upon it. And when we have our leaders, the leaders are just going off of the people and the masses that are knowledgeable about this. It's very hard for you to have a time when you got kids. You can't get what you want. You go to Schnucks. It's a food desert. So you got to travel maybe to Belleville, maybe St. Louis, maybe maybe South County to go and get things that you can't find here and raise your kids and go to work. It's tiring. I know everybody doesn't have the time. Some people don't have the access to the information or don't even know what to look for. But as being a leader of the community, that needs to be handed out. You know, that information needs to be handed out, not what the report of the numbers are on the contaminants inside of the water that has no explanation on what these contaminants are. You know, they're just telling us, oh, we got to tell you this. You know, that isn't going to work. We have to make it very educational. It doesn't cost much money in order to send out a newsletter to everyone in the city by mail. It doesn't cost a lot. One individual could afford to do that monthly. You know, why isn't our city doing it? They need to have that information, and there needs to be meetings that we discuss about the cleanliness of our water. So no one's drinking that water. You barely want to shower in it.
Okay. Do you believe that policemen, firefighters, superintendents, teachers, city officials, city employees should have to live in the city to receive those type of jobs, city jobs?
I believe that it will be very helpful for us to answer that question, we got to look at what a stakeholder is. And what does it mean to be a stakeholder? A lot of the times we hear politicians, we hear people in leadership that, oh, we're going to fix this problem. They want you to worry about the sewer. They want you to worry about the crime. They want you to worry about the jobs that are being done, right? But that answer comes down to what our stakeholders look like. Our businesses are gone. So we don't have as many people coming out of their way, going to Walmart, making purchases in our city, being a stakeholder inside of our city. And the housing market, the 24% of the houses are owned by, in Cahokia, are owned by private homeowners. And then another 76% of those people are owned by property managers. Now, I'm just going to call them what they are. We're going to call them slumlords. That's exactly what they are.
Not all of them.
Not all of them. Not all of them. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And then we have 24% of those homes that are vacant, and that's where we fall into that slumlord gap. You know, we look at that, right? So with those people being stakeholders, ownership is not it's something that's heavily promoted out here. So only 24% of them, and we have another fourth of the homes that are not even livable. The people that live in the city need to be invested in the city, and if you're going to work for the city, you need to be invested in the city as well. I don't want to be able. I need to give people that live here jobs because we have an issue of the lack of. The people can't find a job because there's no businesses here. Give the job to the people that live here. And if they're not qualified, get them qualified. Get those classes, get those vocational classes started here in this local area and give them that opportunity. Revitalization will be key. And if we're going to revitalize, and we have other companies doing construction and we're paying them $90 million, not dollars here, and we're paying them over $100 million there, Look, if we're doing that, if we're doing that, if we're going to do that, we got to offer it to the people that are here. You know, they need to be making those wages. They live here. It's burdensome to have to drive 20 minutes to work. Give it to the people that live here, because they're not to take from us. They're already taking from us. We got to give back. We got to give the opportunities to the people that live here.
I agree. Hypothetical. What would the city of Cahokia Heights, Illinois look like 8 years from now if you were elected mayor 2 terms?
Can I be as creative as I want to be? All right, look, let me tell you. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make our streets safer. I want businesses to be able to come out here and know that there's protections. But I don't want to stop there. I want to give tax incentives to those who make their business maybe a hub for our flyers, information to pass out to their customers. The people that don't get a chance to get a hold of access to information, and also offering jobs to the locals. If there's a percentage of people that you could hire locally, I want that done, and I want a tax incentive for that. For our property managers, that I stated that, you know, we have some slumlords. Implementing harsh policies isn't going to be the way. I would like to sit down, talk to them, and discuss what their disparities are. Is it because the people that own the homes are having financial issues? And if so, if that is the case, well, let's have a better communication process with the people. I would like to be able to offer you tax incentives as well. We find a tax incentive that if you hit all of these metrics and make sure that this house is at this particular standard that's ideal for more people to want to live here, then I should relieve your burden. Also, what I would like to do is I would like to be able to work with other investors, and let's get some revitalization projects going. Let's get a vocational school out here that's going to teach people how to work on the infrastructure to be able to fix the very problem that they're affected by at their own homes. Give them that education. Also, we need to also look into creating more business-minded people to look into investing in our community. We need to look at people that wants to invest into these properties that are unclaimed, that are sitting here, that are eyesore within our community. I want Cahokia to look much different in education. I want to be able to hire qualified people. I don't want this person to get this job just because we're related, just because we're friends. I want somebody qualified there doing the real work. I want youth programs in every idea that you could think of. I want youth programs in education. I want youth programs in science. I want youth programs back from the churches. What happened to the churches? That was the easiest one we could have done. Let's get them back populated. I think that if we do that, the ultimate goal here is to be able to increase our stakeholders in this area, because if we increase our stakeholders in this area, we increase our financial opportunity. And that means that we solve the problems with law. We look at the mayor in St. Louis. Yes, there was some horrific events that happened, correct. However, the numbers don't lie. Crime was down 40%. But we got to stop looking and being fixated on the narrative that people are trying to push us. We have to be aware of our own situations. I think that Cahokia can look very much like it once did in 8 years. And at less than 8 years, I think it can be done in 4 years. No, we probably can't fix all of the sewer problems in 4 years. But if we made it to the point where people that live here can work on it, that are familiar with the area, that know where the issues are, we don't need people that don't live out here that working on our sewer. We need qualified people out here getting that done. So I think that ultimately the city will have more stakeholders. Our education system would be better. Our sewer situation would be addressed. It'll be manageable. And the crime, I think that we really could lock down on crime. I think that we could be creative and get crime taken care of. We get crime taken care of. We get these police funded. We get them the things that they need. I believe that we have a good situation. I can personally say, you know, I talk well about my police out here. Being someone that lived in South County for a while. I got pulled over 4 times a month. I live close to the mall. I got pulled over 4 times a month. At this time, I was with someone that was a different race. You know, the person that I was with at that time was Bosnian, but she never got pulled over. I couldn't even leave my driveway. You know, I'm serious. And I don't get that. I don't get that vibe out here. I've had situations out here where I've had problems with people attacking my children or people trying to jump my children or even malicious attacks against me. And the cops have always taken care of me, And I don't know them. I don't know them all personally. I just know that I felt safe, and I want to be able for other people to feel that same way now. And now they're just too spread out. We need stations. We need stops for each one of them. We need to make sure that they're placed in the areas they need to be without over-policing.
Awesome. Can you look into the camera and explain to the citizens of Cahokia Heights, Illinois, what makes you the better candidate for mayor?
Let's start with I can't be bought. I would like to start that. If this was about financial gain, it'd be sad, and that's not the narrative here. There have already been attempts made to buy me. I don't want the money. If you want to pay me by helping my people. If you want to pay me by making my streets safer. Pay me by protecting my children and my youth and let them flourish. Pay me by putting an end to the corruption that exists in our area. Pay me in love. I want you guys to love each other. I want you guys to stop working against each other. Stop arguing with each other. I believe in debate. I believe in electoral challenge. I can promise you this. Electoral challenge is going to be the most important thing that you have here, especially when the city is underrepresented, especially when these positions are coming up and there's no one to present that challenge. I'm running as an independent. I'm running as a write-in because there was no one there to fulfill that space. We couldn't continue. We couldn't continue letting that same cycle repeat itself. If you guys don't get out and vote in this election, it could look very different here in the next 4 years. This is our opportunity to insert transparency, accountability, and leadership that really will work for you. This election is just not important for Cahokia Heights. It is important for East St. Louis as well. There is a secret society of people that wish to merge this city. And we have to be involved in the charter process. And I know this is putting me at risk. There's people that need to be involved in the charter process of drawing that up for East St. Louis and Cahokia if there was ever going to be a potential merge for the city. Instead of building the conditions and causing a lack of so that we are fit in the metric to merge. There are going to be people that will benefit off of the commercial properties that they own within that city on that riverfront. They want to rebuild it. The same companies that are sitting here and rebuilding our city and milking us in these infrastructure projects are going to be the same people that line up out there to get that work done and build a multi-million-dollar empire off of your suffering, off of your backs. I stand for truth. I don't want anything. I want what's right. That's why voting for me would be the best choice and the best interest of the people. I want you guys to know what's going on. And if we don't stand for anything, if we don't fight for anything, we're going to fall for everything. We're going to fall. If you don't stand for something, you're going to fall for nothing. And that's what it's going to be. I want you to know this and take this information in. Like I said, look into the companies and who has to benefit the most. And if it's not coming from that end, there are two sides to this. There are two dynamics to this. Our nonprofit help is at risk. We've had a shorter projection on money coming from our governor, where there's going to be $737 million that's going to be distributed with us, and that's going to be kind of scarce. So what we get in this year is going to have to be managed well, and we can't keep an administration in that has failed us, that has caused all of the mismanagement, that has abused us with their political power, that has treated us with nepotism, that has fired us from our jobs, that have put our children at risk, I believe that even the churches are even impacted, and this is sad. Your city, your community, and your city was merged. Our cities were merged to prevent us from dying. However, our whole entire city is dying. We have meetings that were supposed to come about, and that meeting never happened because of the arrival of the Champ Party was supposed to be there. And I want you guys to know there are laws on assembly. They didn't notify us correctly. They didn't notify us fairly. It was a violation of the Assembly Act. And we can call them for a meeting. We can get together and we can call them for a meeting. We can force them in front of the table. And all of the issues that I'm providing you are the same questions that you should be asking. I had an individual tell me today, why you wait so long in order to file all of those FOIAs? You're not going to get them until the election is over. It was done because you need to know the information. It was done because I'm not going to put out the information if I already don't have the answer. If I have the answer, that means that I want the proof to line up with the answers because I already know what's going on. And that's the reason why I'm targeted. But if I'm willing to throw myself under the bus, if I'm willing to put myself at risk, my family didn't ask to be followed and pictures being taken of them. They didn't ask for it. My son didn't ask for his wrestling match to be canceled last week on a state tournament that our school director said that he knew nothing about. He didn't ask for that. He didn't ask for that at all. Those kids worked for it. My son got there. What about the other children? But he's an alderman, and he has political ties. There's not any targeting going in on my side. I'm just going to give you the incident and what happened, and I'm going to tell you the facts around what happened. And like I said, if I'm putting my family at risk, the least you can do is to take the time to look at some of the things that I said. I know that bias exists. I do. I know that bias exists, and that may be your friend. That may be your buddy. You may have known them at one point in time. But what's going to happen when your buddy doesn't get the job done? It may be a different situation for you. What about your friends? What about your family that lays outside of the framework of that? I want you guys to get out there and vote, regardless if you're voting for me or not. Your voice needs to be heard. I'm not looking to win every battle. I'm not looking to win everyone's opinion about me. I'm not trying to make that the point. I just want to make the point of you taking the time to do the research yourself. You'll get the better answer. You'll get your own answer. And you'll see what I'm doing is just. You'll see what I'm doing is fair. And you'll see that I care. I have empathy for this city. I hurt just like you hurt. I've been in the same fights that you've been in, but with a difference. I'm willing to fight. And if you're willing to fight with me, I'm going all the way, regardless if someone helps me or not. I'm going to go all the way. Even if I don't win this election, I have measures in place to make sure that this fight will continue. It doesn't stop here. I need your support.